Hey, interdimensional traveler. I'm Meriam Miara, and you're listening to Aspects of Energetics, where I converse with others who use energy work, energy medicine, and energy healing arts in their practice and their personal lives. I started this journey with the aim to connect with others who work with multidimensional approaches to life, those that touch and see the mysterious planes of existence, and those that have made the adventurous decision to use modes of energy to heal themselves and others while remembering who they are. Thank you for joining me today as we embark on a multidimensional dive into the alternative side of alternative self-care, energy practices, and modalities.
We're kind of moving into being able to harness the astral realms as our new physical. So it's an evolution of stepping up into our actual blueprint. But just like the stars, I feel like we come in with a stamp or a tag, and so it says, "Here's how things are going to go." But there's something behind, um, like the astrology. There's something behind it.
Okay, hello and welcome to Aspects of Energetics, and I am Miriam Miara. I'm here today with Chastity, who's been one of my teachers and mentors along the way. I found her when I was going through some massive awakening experiences back in 2021. I started seeing and feeling dragons, then I started working with what they call yanas, or like returning ascended master type beings. And I started seeing people's etherics and cording attachments, and then interesting programmings that I was sensing they're in, like sexual misery programs, things like that. And at the time, I was doing astrology and hypnotherapy work, and I started seeing that in a whole new way as well. So I found her while on YouTube once when I was kind of looking around, and she showed up in a group video she was doing, discussing the concept of gang stalking, which is essentially the process of psychic attacks. And we can sometimes experience those when we're kind of going through particular ascension phases on this path. So I was fascinated by her take on it. And I decided to go ahead and join her online community, and I learned a lot from her. So she's helped to validate some of my experiences that I have been having. She's a very gifted seer herself. A lot of things that she has told me in sessions, um, I wasn't sure why or what she was seeing at the time. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. And then they end up happening in the future, and the things would happen. I'm like, oh, that explains it. So she's helped validate a lot of things that happened to me. And then she's also a very um, talented healing facilitator, and helped me heal a lot of entity cordings, attachments, physiological symptoms, all online through Zoom. Our sessions were all through Zoom here online, because we live on polar opposite sides of the country. In fact, like literally polar opposite. So she's got an online group where she leads her ministry, teachings, and healing sessions, which is called Alchemy of Sophia. And when I first joined her group back in 2021, it was called Liar and Starseeds. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Which at the time really resonated with me, because I was doing a lot of starseed astrology readings, and they were primarily focused on the Pleiadian agenda. And at that time, I was working for like a woman who I learned from, who claimed to have downloaded the information about Pleiadian lines of star seeds, and she based them on like a 26 to 27-degree Sagittarius marking. But I found that quite interesting, because whether you believe in it or not, I mean, it's always fun to see patterns that connect, which I do love. That's where the acclaimed 13th sign of Ophiuchus is found, which actually spans 30 degrees and is almost like the whole constellation of Sagittarius. And it's very unusual that it does keep astrologers scratching their heads and confused, but it's symbolized by the serpent grappler, and actually rules the part of the body of the spine, the cranial sacral axis, like the sacrum and the kundalini. So it makes you think why that sign is even suppressed. But Chastity is also a massage therapist and has a practice in Washington. And you do work with deep tissue massage and craniosacral, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and if I remember correctly, I once mentioned that you had a reading from an astrologer who told you that you had like your North Node, which is like the mark of destiny was located on Ophiuchus. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that find that very fascinating. Um, I have so many questions for you today, Chastity, and like so many things I want to talk to you about, but we only have such a limited amount of time today. Um, yeah, like as far as where, you want to start, talking a little bit about, what you do and, how you went from Lyran Starseed to Alchemy of Sophia, or, we get into maybe how you came across that name, Lyran, Starseeds, or your history with even like beings and interdimensional beings.
Mm. Thank you. I'm excited for us to do this together. I feel like this has been planted in the stars, so to speak, right? So thank you so much for having me. And this is the first time I think that I've actually heard you say like how you actually how our paths came to be. I know we've talked about it in the past, but hearing it this way has it looks and feels and sounds different, but also we've known each other now for a while through so many different facets that we've been dancing dancing with. So I think it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. Lyran Starseeds. Well, interesting. I think there was a whole huge awakening or uprising of the term star seeds. It was coming to a head, and anytime there's a collective impulse, it's so easy to pick up on as a psychic or a seer, and so for me, I was at that time very much resonating. I was in the process of changing over, doing in-person classes and expanding across the globe and doing online stuff. And part of it was, you know, um, just the way the world was at the time. And so I just took the opportunity to say, okay, Spirit, what's going on? And uh, a lot of I started to tie in. I always had this guide. I'll start with that. That is a white tiger. And when I see spirit animals, I most often see them as white. So, but this one had always been with me. And I don't know if it was the presence of that tiger particularly, um, that opened up my consciousness or my awareness into the Lyrans. But then I started learning some work through another community that was new to me, and that was uh, called ES or ES Foundations or another group. So,
Yeah, let's a Lisa Renee group, right? That is
yes,
energetic
yeah.
synthesis. Yep.
And
Yeah,
thank
I
you,
was on there too.
energetic
Yeah, yeah,
synthesis.
that's where I
Okay.
was too. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I learned some language that coincided with my whole life. So I started going, "What is this?" and really started looking, and perhaps that's where Lyran actually took a hold of me in terms of Starseed. And some memories, like galactic memories, started coming in, and I remember like looking. I could see a timeline where I was looking outside from a little window, and I was watching a planet explode, and I could see part of my face, and I had like a cat face, and that was bizarre. And so I just kind of um, allowed myself to follow my consciousness, and uh, I found a lot of people that resonated with the Lyrans and that history kind of started coming in. And then more starseeds started coming in. And I did the discovery session with Debbie Solaris. And her and I have done a few interviews together as well. And it turns out that I did come from, I mean, that was like my first incarnation when I came here, according to her sensing or viewing of records. And I spent a lot of time in the Pallades. And so that kind of, I think that that's perhaps how our energies resonate as well. I think there
Yeah.
was, I forget what planet she said it was, but uh, starts with a T. It'll come to. I know I was on Merope for a while, and then a couple of other planets too. But So went from Lyran Starseed, and I thought, there's something much deeper here. And I've always had this connection to, it's really an overused term, but mother or divine mother, or the entire essence of what the feminine principle is. And there is information that I didn't really know how to translate. And I started moving into not pigeonholing myself or the community into one vibration, but I wanted to bring a whole, I wanted to bring something together where we could all learn. And Alchemy of Sophia came because of the transmutation, where we all alchemize our lives, our history, our information. We alchemize it, or we transmute it, and Sophia is wisdom. And so, granted, there's a being Sophia. The overall sensation of um, the impulse is a Sophianic impulse, but it's of wisdom, and to me is the last piece that we need to combine the masculine and feminine energies for that inner light to shine. So, Alchemy of Sophia, it is.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a really cool trajectory because, you know, a lot of us when we kind of start off on a certain trajectory in our path, we do come into the star alignments and galactic alignments and our essence that are not necessarily locked into this physical, right? We start to realize we're more than just this physical
Mm-hmm.
existence. So we start to see ourselves outside in a cosmic sense. So when we're looking for the cosmic information, a lot of us came across energetic synthesis. I think a lot of us do because it's like you look up your very esoteric, phrases and it's what comes
Mm-hmm.
up. Not so much anymore now, but during the time, back a few
Yeah.
years, it would be like the only thing that you'd find. So I think a lot of us went into energetic synthesis looking for that information to validate our intuition and our
Mm-hmm.
experiences. So when you start seeing that Lyran aspect of yourself, it's like, okay, this is just a piece of my multidimensionality or my soul existence that is coming online. It's bringing
Mm-hmm.
me the gifts that I once learned and, that experience. And so at the time, a lot of us were waking up to that next level. And it was a
Yeah.
massive awakening in 2020, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. And then as we come into that, exclusive starseededness, then we start to see, okay, what do I do with this now? As what does this mean? It just means I'm special. Well, I mean, what do I do with that? Well, it means that I have to integrate and combine all of that information into a way that's practically used here as a um, divine, person, human, angelic template, however you want to see it as. So that makes sense. Then you move into the cosmology of maybe even theosophy as you start
Mm-hmm.
to witness Sophia, as the divine mother of all of it. So then we start to, expand our consciousness even further. So that gets really deep, right? So that gets like it starts to root us more into the earth even then, and so that we can expand further because we can't go so far without rooting ourselves into the
Yeah.
divine mother Sophia of the planet. Is that, do you think that in your studies in across your, I guess your tracking of the divine coding, divine Sophia, how does this have to do, what does this have to do with our angelic template?
Well, I think that's a really great question. Um, and how I see this is we can't be too far one way or the other. And so balancing these polarities, there's something about this energy that combines cosmic forces, the cosmos, and the earth. And so it's about anchoring this cosmic um, force into the physicality, and so like into our bodies as well as the body of the planet itself. Um, And there's some type of vortex or slingshot that happens when this embodies, and you're able to and there's like a merging, a vortex that like merges polarities, and then you can slide or move as a light being in and out of most any from my learnings. But I don't read a lot of books. I don't read a lot of people's work. And I only just started maybe the last couple of years reading a few things here and there, but only to only to see how it relates to what I've learned from my own cellular resonance, what has come in during the right time of my life or my journey. And so then looking at it and saying, oh, wow, somebody else already wrote about this, or, oh my goodness, this is a really big piece. And then just kind of starting to string things together. But I found that when when reading somebody else's work, it's always heavy-handed with other people's interpretation. So it's muddied. And so where there's truth in it, it's not always absolute truth. And so, which is fine. But it actually is an opportunity to find the strings of truth, to be able to weave those into how the light awakens inside of yourself or myself. I hope I'm making sense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, that does make sense. So, with that, because I kind of asked about like, what do you think that has to do with the divine blueprint or angelic
Okay,
blueprint?
there we go.
And yeah, I mean, it is kind of a weird question. I think it came out of left field, but
No, no, it's okay. And then I went off on a tangent, which happens often. You might have to reel me in. So, what does it have to do with our divine blueprint? Well, I think that it merges the cosmic force with the physical force, or the we're kind of moving into being able to harness the astral realms as our new physical. So it's an evolution of stepping up into our actual blueprint. But just like the stars, I feel like we come in with a like a stamp or a tag, and so it says, "Here's how things are going to go." But there's something behind, um, like the astrology. There's something behind it, and and it's almost like peeling away what you were stamped with, or I'm not saying that right, but it's like the angelic blueprint is behind what we come in with. And I don't know how to explain that, but it takes someone like yourself to bring that impulse through the chart. So, or through somebody's template. So I kind of feel like we've always had this template over the top of us, pinning down who we actually are. And so it's through this guidance, or this um, um, destination or destiny, so to speak. It's almost like, here's your stamp. You come in, and this is how life is going to be for you if you can't get through it, right? So it's like if you're bowling and you put up the little guardrails. But then there are those that want to go further and want to actually go through that and dissolve the boundaries, to be able to actually embody the true essence of who we are. And I think that I mean, there are probably thousands, but it's still really only a few people that choose to do that. And that actually, in my opinion, increases the cycle, or this cycle of the end times, or you could say ascension. But for those who can see the divine blueprint or the angelic blueprint, it can help us move through this end cycle, which ideally should be the evolution into the next step of being. I suppose I don't really have a word for it.
Yeah, what you when you speak about this, it really kind of takes me into the concept of initiation gateways. Like when we
Mm,
have to move through certain I don't know. We kind of we all go to school. We grow up some way or another, whether we're homeschooled or we go to an actual school, and we're taught things. Like you said in the beginning, that are truths mixed with mistruths, or the teachers just necessarily doesn't know everything, so they give us what they know, and then it's up to us to kind of decode it along the way, and then find what resonates with us, what's for our souls, highest evolutionary blueprint and what
mhm.
no longer serves us and our the way we're evolving. So we have to kind of then we're kind of forced with decision points where we have to kind of move through that anchor that decision point into an initiation. That's how I see initiations happening as we start to remove that holographic overlay. As you
Yeah,
see, you talk about the stamp or stamped with, and a lot of astrology, I do see it as that. No, I don't do astrology like most astrology people do.
right.
Because like I think people go crazy like where'd you get that from? Because I don't actually like I'm not trained like in a traditional astrologer. I kind of look at it and I see things. I see the way people are trapped in
Yeah,
certain patterns of behavior or upbringing, or hey, let's get into this, or genetic makeup, like
yeah.
deep in their ancestral patterning. And
Hmm.
a lot of my clients that come to me, there a lot of them are moving through ancestral healing, and
Yes, it's big right now.
yeah, it's huge. And I see it all over social media too. People and healers are all talking about this ancestral healing. And it's like, absolutely, it's such a shamanic point too, or so many of
Mhm.
those. I mean, everyone has a point of view. How do you see how do you see the importance of I guess ancestral healing, our blood, in the connection there?
That's a that's a big question and probably takes longer than we have to slowly piece together. But um, we talk about entity attachments, and if we look at that, uh, or there are different cultures or different ideas of what an entity attachment is. Some would call it a demon, some would call it an alien, some would call it, but then there are different forms too. Um, like a thought form creates an entity. But ancestral healing is something that is passed down through our genes and how the genes express and what the blood remembers. Um, so a lot of the entity attachments I've found, or what people perceive as entity attachments, are actually versions of themselves coming through that have been put in the dark and left behind a closed door. And that could be another lifetime. That could be a parallel life that's happening right now. And there's so much that goes there's so many layers that go into this and how it expresses in the DNA. And something, if we look at epigenetics, how does trauma express in the now self versus how it expressed in other selves? Um, we're finding more and more connection to the waters, and in the waters we'll call this like blood. And then there's a whole idea of etherization of the blood if you go into Rudolf Steiner's work, which I'm not well versed in. Douglas Gabriel has a beautiful book on that um, that I haven't read yet, but I'm energetically feeling it, and it feels like it's a beautiful book. I've really enjoyed how he breaks down some of the um, anthroposophical ideas of Sophia. So um,
So
it's
do
such a
you
deep question.
Yeah, so do you, let's start with, I mean, so with the idea of entities being, somewhat shadow aspects of ourselves and, repressed, suppressed, or denied aspects of ourselves from this lifetime, other lifetimes, other dimensions, parallel lifetimes, other expressions, other dimensions of ourselves, right? All the combinations of timelines. And
Mhm.
they kind of show up. I notice they show up when they need healing. And so it will often show up in someone as, either psychological misalignment or physical
Mhm.
misalignment, or something just feels off to extra sensitive people like myself. So, like, I think that's a really good place to start when we talk about that. How much of that do you think is happening in the singular person and their expression, and how much of it do you think is happening within their genetic DNA? Like, for instance, their grandmother is coming in, or their great grandmother, or their deceased father, or aspects of those deceased relatives. Are they connected to them? Are they separate from them? Because it all lives in the same blood, right?
Mhm. Mhm. So there are like curses that can be passed down through blood or through family. So like it's like a bloodline is cursed. And so these things can express by living with them or seeing them. So it's like it I feel like it stays alive when we're around it, the trauma. And so this would be like handed down trauma that we actually experience. But uh, gosh, and then this goes also into like somebody who would be, I think to use one of Lisa Renee's terms, I don't think it's just hers, but genetic path cutter. So you have somebody that is born into the line that says, we're going to end this pain or we're going to end this trauma. And so this person maybe takes on extra trauma, but they transmute it, they alchemize it. So they're able to alchemize in their blood, which I think is going to go into the concept of etherization of the blood. Um, and it gets alchemized, but a lot of what happens is we take on or the something about how like the templates like bleed together to take on our grandparents' trauma or to pick up um, uh, feeling like you're a victim. Like, say, mom always felt victimized. So you experience that maybe with a narcissistic parent. Uh, but it's more than just learning it. Even if your mother passes or your father passes, your grandmother passes, there's something about it that like it dissolves into it dissolves either back into the blood, or it can be dissolved by the person who has energetically come into the world to alchemize it. So that person can dissolve it, and it kind of swirls around and then comes up through the other person, and can dissolve, and literally be ended. And you can do this through visualization. You can do this with assistance, but one of the things that I think is really challenging is that we have the authority to end it immediately. And it's like, even though the mind knows that and the spirit knows that, there's this disconnect. And so it keeps repeating, or it'll keep going um, until until the person really understands the truth of who they are, and the power within that they actually have to immediately alchemize something. Because you can immediately alchemize it. People will come, we'll pull out entities all day long, and then you can come back next week and we'll do it again, right? So there's this permission granted or given. And oftentimes if we're speaking specifically about ancestral, it's about going deep into the blood. You go back through conception and follow the cords back through this and back through that inception. And you keep going back through inception, 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 and you see spinal cords and nerves and blood and hearts and the stars. It'll just take you back to the stars. So did I
Okay.
answer your question?
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have another question for you. So this is interesting. Okay. So we talk about this ability to transmute trauma within the bloodline, within ourself, right? So it's like it's taking a lot of responsibility, and actually that's a lot of work. Um, and so it's I noticed in a lot of spiritual healers, I notice a lot of disconnect, like there's an excommunication with their parents, and
Hmm.
their families. And I find that fascinating because when you think about this, like they're actually they're us. Like there's really no disconnect. Like there's in the blood, it's all there, right? And we can, like you said, um, alchemize and transmute the. But why do they keep doing what they're doing, and we keep doing our work, and they keep doing what they're doing? It's like it's almost like they can't handle the healing or the shift, and there's a pattern there. I don't know, like, so that's something I've grappled with, is this resistance to. I mean, I come in with my bloodline is very disconnected from me. I don't get along with my mom, and I don't get along with a lot of my family because we're just very different, and they do not see, and they're very much stuck in their very old-fashioned ways, and their
Hmm.
misaligned viewpoints. So it's very difficult, and I have to hold the space constantly. So it's a lot of work. Do you
Hmm.
think that's part of it? I mean, where is the real, like, can we actually coexist with them peacefully in this life, without having to
Hmm.
have this
Hmm.
struggle?
Yeah. So I recently have disconnected from my mother. It's been toxic my whole life, right? And I finally found the strength to say, even though she's my mother, I don't have to always be around. It doesn't have to be like it is or like it was. So, this is about when you come in to do the work, it almost separates these generations um, by like an invisible wall. So it's easier to do the work when you're separate from them. But I think what happens is there's a disconnect between the idea of physical and spirit. And really, all the work is done on the spiritual level. So when you're able to speak to your mom's spirit, for instance, um, in her spirit, she's not who she is in the flesh. Never
Right.
are, because
Well, or
it's
the
the
ego. Yeah.
personalities. Yeah, the
Yeah. The
ego self, the
personality ego. Yeah.
personality. Yeah. So it's really the healing. The healing is going to be having conversations with spirit, and the one who is able to recognize that or know that uh, has the peace or the alchemizing abilities. I think it's okay to be disconnected from those who cause toxicity in this life, because if you think about it, the I guess you can call it negativity, but the hardships or the negativity or the trauma, the things that they can't get past, this is all opportunity for entities or programs. There's a lot of programs that we are running in our bodies. And
Hmm.
there's programs still running in the brainwaves of the planet. So deep in the ley lines, and then also, across our skies. So these are just thought impulses, and when people are separated from spirit, they are so susceptible to these continuing to run. Um, Also, claiming somebody in their lower vibration is is something I think that isn't necessarily beneficial. So if we're able to look at them in spirit and the true essence of who they are, then the rest really doesn't bother us the same. It's because it opens up compassion. And when we can open up compassion and really see them for who they truly are, then the rest of it just falls away, and it all becomes, I'm not going to say okay, but it becomes okay, because you see the truth in them. The Melchizedek through Paul Selig say, I know I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. And when you say that about another and you envision them that way, you can't unsee them. It's you just see, when you see someone in their truth, the everyday stuff is able to alchemize or disappear, and you can go see it again if you want to. You can drop back down and you can claim them in their misery um, and in their woes, and then you can feel them for them, and then you can actually feel that come right through your genes. You can feel it come right into your cells and express. So you'll get irritated, or it'll trigger something that you remembered as a child or whatever. And that's just going to keep it alive. So we either choose to alchemize it or we choose to keep it alive.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I feel like that is an interesting topic, but I won't stay there too long. It's just interesting because I'm constantly doing that work with her, with my mom, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of
Mhm.
work,
It is,
especially when
yeah.
you have your own children and you have like five children, which is
Uh,
amazing because again, it's really tough because you're bringing in a lot of that, ancestral bloodline,
mhm.
and you're working with a lot of it. So it makes sense that you're going to have to cut off one kind of funnel of your energy so that you could focus on what you're creating rather than what you're constantly trying to fix. So it makes sense. Um, so when we talk about the etherization of blood, though, how does the heart have, what part does the heart play into it? Because I think, we talk about the heart is moving away from the idea of it being a pump of the blood to being a
Mhm.
vortex of energy. So how do
Mhm.
you see the heart playing into this whole, transmutation, etherization process?
I'm not well versed on explaining the etherization process, but I see the heart as seven vortexes, and I've always kind of seen it that way. So I look at the heart as where we go to travel. So we go inside the heart to get to the cosmos. We go inside the heart to get to other timelines. We go there's this is where we go. Um, uh, to awaken, to move, to become. And so when we start to understand the resonance and the powerful resonance that the heart has, and when we're heart to heart, um, it's incredible. Um, it opens pathways. It opens pathways.
Where do you think these vortexes connect to? These seven
I think
vortexes.
I think they connect to all kinds of places. I think that it's part of how the spirit comes in, and I, I'll be excited to read to put pieces together that help me understand or find a language to what I just see energetically. But I see is how um, um, I see in colors, and then I hear light language a lot. So I'm kind of hearing a lot of light language right now. But um, the
If you want to do light language, go for it if you feel like it. I think
thank you,
a lot of my audience and viewers do like light language, so it's up to you.
thank you. There's like this impulse of truth that comes in, and it connects spirit to spirit, and it opens pathways, not just genetic pathways, but I just keep hearing pathways to truth. Tun tia kan tia tatayin tun tun chakia tatayin ti ini ka aun tun chi ta ka nukia tayin tatayin ni chi tia ta un kuya tayin ti ki tia ta un tun chi kia tatayin ti ka na ka haun tu kaya ta ti ta ta tun tun tia ta. Well, that's a different one. So that must be mostly for a lot of your listeners. That's a whole different energy that came through. So made me
Interesting.
warm. Yeah.
Well, the Pleiadians are always connected to the heart space, is what this
Yes.
is. So
Yes, they do.
I've
That does.
always been someone who worked with the heart. Like that,
Hmm.
yeah. So the heart is such a fascinating topic to me. Do you know that? Have you heard of the book, the Human Heart, the Cosmic Heart, by it was a medical doctor who wrote it actually. Cowan was his name, Cown.
No, I'll look that
WAN
up.
count. It's actually a book written by a cardiologist who
Wow.
discovered that the heart is not a pump. It is more of a vortex, which is
Hmm.
fascinating. And you think about it in a scientific realm now, it's like moving into that realm
Hmm.
as well. So it's moving more into a reality.
It's like passageways to the spirit world. This is how we time travel.
Mm.
So these are just this is how we're not traveling physically right now, from place to place, but we can travel anywhere, and I believe it's all through the heart. So even in meditations, it feels like it might be like in your mind, or you're traveling or seeing something in your mind. But when the mind and the heart are combined, this is when I believe these pathways open up. So it's a level of embodiment in order to move through these.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And then when the heart and mind are aligned.
Hmm.
And oftentimes I think we get caught up in our discernment process and we forget to include the
Hmm.
heart because sometimes
Hmm.
if we're into the heart too much, then we lose the discernment and then we can get caught off guard and miss and lose track, which has happened to me many a time. So
Yeah, especially it's like if we're not in control of our own emotions, right? It's really challenging. It can be really challenging because then everybody else becomes um, has so much power over us. We allow what they say, what they do, everything to affect us, and it's really easy. That's a program. That's a program that gets switched on, and it can be really challenging to switch back off again.
oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, I mean so what would you think that program is considered? How
Well,
do we recognize it? We name it,
what
claim
is
it.
it that what do we call it? Yeah, well, once you claim it,
You can't.
it's yours, right? So, um, this goes into a lot of programs. Just if we, I always say the powers that the controllers, right? There's these controller groups that run these programs, and it's part of the holographic existence. And
Okay.
so they know our bodies. They know how to disconnect us from spirit. They know how to disconnect us from our soul. They know how to cause the schisms. And uh, it's challenging to be in the flesh because of the desires, to be in this body. Like it's good to eat things, right? We can taste things and we can feel things and we can feel all of the emotions. And it's our job in this body to learn how to master those emotions for spiritual evolution. Um, or perhaps it's the soul's evolution into the spirit integration or something like that. I'm not going to claim that I know it exactly, but you get the picture. It's satiating something in the spirit, and I know there's a whole nother thought out there that, oh, we're trapped here, and perhaps there is a part of the consciousness that's trapped here, but ultimately, not all aspects of self are trapped here. Um, so I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's coming up. I'm feeling like there might be a lot of questions about being trapped.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know because I never really thought we were trapped here, honestly. I've always been
Mhm.
under the guise that we are here to learn
Yes,
and
learn.
it's such a short life. Like it goes by so
Hmm.
quick. I can't even believe I'm like, the age I'm at right now. What happened? So, and we're all halfway done. So yeah, it's such an opportunity to see what's going on down here and to learn and then we're done. So I don't know. These people
Hmm.
come up with these trapped ideas. Like I think that there's definitely going to be some programming there, and I think that's probably where the
Yes.
programming, really aims to take place is to trap people, their souls, their soul fragments, their shards, their various aspects of themselves in other dimensions, so that they can't embody fully, right?
Yes.
So because if your parts of your expression are trapped, say in the, I don't know, 15th dimension or something, you
Mhm.
can't fully embody that aspect of yourself. So you're going to be less empowered than if you had that, expression. So
Yep.
that's definitely a topic I think that is a whole other podcast. But
Hmm.
these are interesting. When we go to multidimensional quantum healing sessions, we can expect to retrieve those parts of ourselves, that are trapped, that maybe would help get with they're unlocked, that they're freed so that we can bring them back as ours, like reclaim them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where that's coming from. I mean, that makes a lot of sense in terms of people feeling trapped. I think that's the thing is, if you think, oh, logically we're not trapped. I mean, We're not, on a logical, but then
You can't
there's
be. You can't be. But then it's like it's this. It's a program, right? And so if they put in these programs that keep us busy from actualizing spirit in the flesh, then we're going to be busy running around doing all kinds of other things, except for what it is we're here for.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And we don't know what's happening, right? At the end of the day, we're
Right.
just exhausted, stressed out, our nervous system's fried, and we're just
Mhm.
trying to get by and we don't realize what's happening on another scale, another level. So, what do you see, like, where do you see water being used here? And how do you feel like water is a useful tool for us in some of this process of healing or restructuring or
Well, I love water, and I think water is the essence of all creation. Water has been really big and definitely coming up in the work that I've been doing with my group lately. It it really started peaking a few years ago, and now we're back to going into the waters. And the waters are these are like cosmic waters, but I see them as the same. I hear it and see it as it's the same waters in our body. So I see waters as blood, as cerebral spinal fluid, as interstitial fluid. So everything that is in our body are variations of the waters, and it's all programmable. And the water remembers history. There's gush from cosmic waters all the way down into the earth waters. And I also see that how that connects into the elements and how we're all of the elements, like in this physical body, we're all of those. And so if we remember or if we know, and there's a lot of work out there, is it something Emoto that does the water work, but then
Mhm.
Veda Austin has a really big presence, a newer big presence with seeing consciousness in water, but the water remembers everything. And so if we look at that and we look at how our body is um, programmable, easily programmable, then it is so easy to tell ourselves what how we want to be, how we want to move forward, programming the blood to clean itself, programming the cerebral spinal fluid to move at the proper impulse, keeping um, Kundalini moving, um, uh, keeping it moving, so you can slide up and down the spine, so you can access divine wisdom, so you can go and move the fetal cells around your body to heal yourself, like in your mind, in your imagination, because it's through the imagination that we travel. It's through the imagination that we heal. And when you tell the water to express something or you tell it what to do, it reflects that. It's a mirror as well as a healer. And we come from the waters. Everything everything we have is in here, but it all comes from the waters. That's how I see it. And that's just kind of a brief description. I like to color my waters. I often drink out of like blue or pink or purple, and feel the vibration of the colors. I feel it like I bring it in, like my body is thirsty for the knowledge, and so I allow the knowledge of the water to awaken inside.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I have always drank so much water. Like I drink like two or three of these a day. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
like crazy. And like people look at me like, what are you doing? Like I just can't stop drinking water. And I do feel like I've always run a lot of energy through the water, through my
Yeah.
body, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
processing. Like I don't know what it is, but like especially when I'm around a lot of people too, like I go through
Mm-hmm.
so much water. And I've always wondered, like, what is that with the water? I do work with the water, and it's just so much going on with the water. It's
Yeah,
so much
it's
information, like
mm-hmm.
satiation, nourishment. Like there's just so much involved in
when
water.
something needs to come through, I'll often just immerse myself in water. in order to allow the information to come in.
Oh,
Um,
like a bath. Okay, that makes
yes,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. Like I sat in the bath. When I finally just like let go, and I was letting some information come in, uh, a version of myself, let's just call it that, a version of myself was coming out of like the forest of darkness. And it was really challenging. It was making me kind of, it was challenging emotionally, right? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go in the waters and I'm going to call out to myself. And it was very powerful, but it was interesting because being submerged in the waters, this is when I started hearing you can breathe in deep water. And I felt, this sounds so crazy, but I felt like my ribs opened up and were like gills. And it was so bizarre because my whole skin underwater, everything was like moving in breath, and the waters all of a sudden felt like I was in plasma. I was floating in plasma, and um, uh, this piece of myself I was able to baptize in the water as she came out of the dark forest, you know? So it just was like, oh, I love the water.
I love that story. I love that. Yeah. And how do you think, what do you think salt does to it then and changes its property in that respect?
I think it's a purificate. It
Okay.
purifies.
It does. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if you look at, I don't know how many Bible listeners. I don't know the Bible well, but there are some things that'll come through, and I think like in Leviticus it says something like salt every offering, and so that everything should be salted, even if it's just a pinch. But I believe that the salt is really about purification, so I think that's what it does,
Mhm.
um, when
Okay.
it's not a dirty salt, you know.
Yeah. Interesting. That's fascinating. I love that story of being submerged in the bath. I mean, I know that, I'll lay in the bath and I'll start singing, and then I'll hear the sound tones and the frequencies emanating from the water, or just
Mhm.
humming, and you could feel, you're actually filling your entire, it's almost like it resonates deeper and stronger in the water than if you're just sitting, singing with the frequencies around you in the air. It's like the water really holds those frequencies and resonates them. I mean, if you think about that, what is that process called where they put like water cymatics,
Climatic.
cymatics where
Mhm.
they kind of, show it is the frequency wave patterns that does emit from this sound. So
Mhm.
that's really it's really cool. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there is so much more to cover, but I do think we kind of covered a lot, and I feel like I want to talk to you about so many other things, but this is such a nice conversation is there anything else you kind of want to bring up or you feel coming through or that you'd like to talk about?
No, I feel like I would love to do this again though.
Okay.
This is, if you feel up for that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's there's a lot of gentleness coming through. So I feel like overall, there's this overwhelming wave of gentleness or purity that's coming through, an awakening in, I don't know if it's our conversation or if it's like this next phase that we walk through. Um, I think community is going to be really big for people. So, you know, uh, having gatherings, being around people that understand or that see, you know, that can bring the warmth to some of the darkness that we're going to be experiencing or have been experiencing. And just to know that it's not ever really dark, it's just an absence of light. And so the more people that can shine their light, the easier it is to um, get through these next phases, you know?
Yeah, I mean, do you think, when we're physically in each other's presence, we do have the ability to almost activate one another to a different extent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you could, you know, that's so crazy because you could walk down the street and activate somebody across the street even, and you wouldn't even know it. So it's really important to be sound in your heart. and not
Yeah.
walking around with negative thoughts, especially for those of us that are really here to help hold the light.
That actually brings me to a memory I have after a session with you. It was right before my dad passed, and I had a session with you. And in the session, you brought forth, like you told me I was working with mother's milk. And I mean, I never heard of what that was, and
Mhm.
wasn't familiar with it. I was like, what is that? But I remember right before the session that day, earlier on that day, I was walking around in the grocery store, and like everyone I came across was just so smiley and happy, and it was like in a great mood. And we were joking around, and I just felt so good. And I felt like everyone I didn't want to, it's like I didn't want to feel like it was me, right? Because it's like the ego, like, oh, who am I? It's not me. It's just them. I'm having a good day. But like I had to tune into it because I'm like, really, come on, just give yourself some credit if it has something to do with you. And I'm like, oh, this is the mother's milk. I'm like, it's like whatever this is, there's an energy pouring through me and out of me,
Mhm.
and it's affecting people around me. And then I realized it was because I was supposed to bring it to my father who was about to pass. And I sat there in his room where he was at the nursing home. And I remember bringing it in, and I remember how it was really interesting because as he passed, it was a very, I think, good passing for him for the life he lived. It was very light, and it was very, very helpful. So yeah, I mean, could you tell me a little bit more about that mother's milk and tell me, what you see and how yeah, that's such an interesting thing.
It's really interesting. I see in each one of us, we have this um, uh, we have like a honey that comes out of us, it's something that heals us. We have the ability to heal ourselves with um, our own things that we have self healing and self sustaining
Mhm.
energies.
Yeah.
Um, but this mother's milk is really about the wisdom awakening, or the feminine awakening, about mother returning. And there's some substance that I started seeing in some of us that is like satiating. So being in your presence is like sustenance, and it's healing, and it's something about um, I started seeing it as if a baby was being suckled, and so just on a grander scale that um, it's very similar to that. And I don't mean to make that like sexual or anything weird, but it is just like there's this food, or this milk that is coming out, and it's designed. Some are designed to feed the soul, and in feeding the soul, it really helps heal these traumas. It's just
It's like a nourishment. And where
it
do you
is a
think it comes
nourishment.
from? Like where is the source of it?
Mother, it comes from Gaia.
Mm.
Yeah, it comes from Gaia. And I think that it's something we all have access to. And I think some are just bringing it through, or it's starting to present in such a way. And so, um, it, I don't know. I'll speculate and say maybe this moves into when we're ready to be like breatharians again or something like that, because it's about it really is that we have the sustenance, and we have that in us to feed each other in a way. And this is about a deeper connection than just, what it is we've lived or what it is we've known in this life. So these energies are really coming online. And so how do we learn how to bring them through? And everything happens in the spiritual realms. Um, right now, and uh, we learn how to bring them in different ways. So it can still heal the physical body. These energies can still heal the physical body, and that's through intention, and that's through knowing that this is what I'm here for, or this is what I can do, and it's through, I think, the essence of the Christ impulse, and this is not experienced until you are embodied and understand the wisdom, and you know that it's masculine and feminine, that couple. or they couple and then they spin open. So that's how I
Hmm.
see it. So you different ways to satiate people.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember even that session, like it was sunny that day and it started raining as soon as our session started and it stopped raining as soon as our session was done. And,
Mm.
again, like I said, I work with the water and if I wouldn't be a breatharian personally, I would be like a watertarian where I would just drink
Uh-huh.
water constantly.
Uh-huh.
But,
But it
so,
kind of reminded me, like being in the bath reminded me that when we walk through the plasma fields or as we are plasma beings, we're actually breathing water. Like, we become one with the environment and we're satiated. So you would still be getting water through your skin.
oh, thank God. Well, thank you, Chastity. I am gonna put all the information to you still do YouTube videos? You still put them
I
out?
do. I'm gonna
Okay.
get back. I've yeah, I've been intending to get back into it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And you have I think you had some other things. I'm gonna put information links to your stuff that is you're gonna send me, and you can check out Chastity. She does. You do sessions, remote sessions, which I love. Thank you so much again, Chastity, for doing this interview with me today. I feel like it was short and sweet, literally.
It was
So,
literally.
so okay. If I guess for everyone who wants to get a hold of her, please do. And Chastity, I can't wait to talk to you again, like, and do this again. It'll be fun. All right.
Thank you for having my hour. I loved it.
All right. Bye bye for now, for everyone.